Welcome to the podcast. This is Somebody Like You, and what we're doing today is we're talking about self-love. And if you've been wondering how to practice better self-love, take care of yourself, and just to feel better overall, this might be the episode for you, because in reality, we've kind of been conditioned to hate ourselves. So stick around and show some love, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and let's get this thing rolling. First things first, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for coming to take care of yourself. Thank you for supporting me. And thanks for just bringing overall good energy to the world. Now let's get this thing started. We're talking about self-love. And as I bring up my notes here, why is self-love so important? Well, self-love's so important because true happiness starts with loving yourself. Because think of it this way. As you keep projecting all of these emotions, all this energy, all those frequencies out into the world, what you're doing is reflecting. So if you can start loving yourself the way you're putting out that could be fake love to other people, realistically, you're going to start writing the outline for what happiness and love is for you. Now, a big thing along this road is imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not good enough, whether that be at your job, whether that be in a relationship. If you're a content creator like myself, you can get stuck thinking you're not good enough. Why would people want to be with me, watch me, hang out with me, be like me, right? But the whole thing about this journey is realizing that we're overqualified, right? We're not supposed to be comparing ourselves to other people. We're not supposed to be doing things because we're good enough. We're doing things because that's who we are. So when imposter syndrome sets in, that self-love is the thing that's going to override all of that. Because anytime you're experiencing, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, you don't have to be good enough for anybody else but yourself. So if you're not feeling quote unquote good enough, the only thing you have to do is change that for you, not for somebody who might be watching a video, listening to a podcast. Your relationship, because remember, if that relationship is true and that relationship is built on a solid foundation, that person is going to support and be your teammate along that growth of finding and rediscovering yourself on this self-love journey. So anytime those thoughts start to set in, we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but there's things you can do to reverse that cycle. Also, by learning how to love yourself, you actually show others how to love you. I know, it almost sounds like a little bit of a riddle, but stick with me. When you learn how to love yourself, you are writing the blueprint for what you will and you will not accept from other people. So this comes right into that self-negative talk. If you're constantly calling yourself a dumbass, you're constantly hard on yourself, you're constantly beating yourself up over the little things, guess what? That's what's going to happen in most, if not all, of the relationships you come in contact with. Because what do you do when you're hanging out with people? You're watching subconsciously how they treat themselves and how they treat others. If you disconnect yourself from you, it's how are you treating a human being? And that's how you're treating yourself. So by writing that blueprint and letting other people know how I will and will not be treated, you are setting yourself up for healthier relationships down the line. So stop being so hard on yourself. If you leave a bag in the car, or if you miss an assignment by a couple minutes or stuff like that, don't call yourself a dumbass. Don't beat yourself up. Show love, kindness, empathy for yourself. Because what that's going to do is retrain your brain to be there when you need it the most. In this society, the thing we've been taught to do is beat ourselves up when we don't do something quote unquote right or correctly. All that has ever done is taught ourselves to abandon us when we need it most. In those moments of uncertainty, in those moments of failure, if that's how you choose to look at it, we've been taught to abandon ourselves instead of be a teammate and continue to support us. We've almost been taught you have to beat yourself into the ground so you can become this stronger version of you and never let it happen again. I am going to be the spoiler of the good news, bad news, whichever that may be. You're going to mess up again. But the thing that you need to do while being there for yourself is learn the lesson. And learning lessons doesn't come from beating yourself up. It doesn't come from calling yourself a dumbass. It comes from being your best teammate to yourself. So remember, when things get tough, when things get hard, and when things don't seem to be going your way, step back and be almost the observer of your life. And look at what lesson is this trying to teach me. Because once you learn that lesson, you level up. It's like a video game. You level up every time you learn a lesson. So remember, be your teammate. Don't be the enemy. Don't be the boss that you have to beat. You're working through this with you. Let's keep this baby moving. Oh, a big one. A big one that you need to, if you don't take anything from this episode, take this. If you're going to take anything from this episode, take this. Stop comparing yourselves to other people. You can't judge a fish on how fast it can climb a tree, right? You can't do it. So even if somebody's trying to be in the same field, do the same things, you can be inspired and they can almost show you doors that you want to go through. But the thing is, stop comparing your success to their success. They don't know your story just like you don't know theirs. Because what it comes down to is it's you versus you every day. So if you don't like the version of you are today, that's okay. Every minute, every second, every time you wake up, you have an opportunity to become that version of you that you want to become. And by comparing yourselves to other people, all you're doing is taking the focus off of yourself and putting it on someone else. This journey isn't about being better than people, having more money than people, being more successful than people. The point of this journey is to enjoy your life, to have as much fun, experience as much love and kindness as you possibly can. And the way to do that is by loving yourself and not comparing yourself to other people's journey. Because here's the thing. These people on that journey, you're only seeing clips of what their journey looks like. If you were to rewind their journey 5 years ago, they weren't on the same path. They were doing different things. They were running into different roadblocks. Remember, you can use these people's journeys as inspiration, but it's not a building block for you. What you need to do is focus on you. Love yourself. Love the journey that you're on, because the only way you're going to stick on this journey that you're striving towards is by loving it, trusting that process, falling in love with the process. Because at the end of the day, if you hate what you do 90% of the time you're doing it, that's 90% of your life you hate. So find the thing you love to do the most and let that guide you. Don't let somebody else's dollar amount or bank account be your driving factor, because at the end of the day, you're not going to stick with it. Because you have to find happiness first. Big thing is awesome. How do we practice self-love? You've been talking a lot about what self-love looks like, what self-love doesn't look like, but how do we practice self-love? And believe it or not, we already touched on the first step of it. Cut out that self-negative talk. Stop calling yourself a dumbass and start calling yourself a silly little goose. I know, right there it sounds ridiculous. But imagine if you called yourself a dumbass 14 times a day for 6 months. And for a lot of us, 14 times a day isn't even scratching the surface of how many times we call ourselves a dumbass, right? Well, what if you had a best friend? What if you had a boss that called you a dumbass 14 times a day for 6 months? That's not a friend. That's not a good leader. That's a jerk that you by now should have learned I don't need to surround myself with, because they're not bringing out the best in you. They're dragging you down to make themselves feel better. Well, that's what you're doing. Why are you dragging yourself down by talking down to yourself? Because remember, you're not bringing yourself up by bringing yourself down. You have to start looking at how you talk to yourself, because just like how you treat yourself, this is a blueprint for how people will talk to you. So you have to love yourself first. Talk to yourself like you love yourself. And that can feel really uncomfortable because we haven't practiced that maybe since we were kids. Somewhere along the lines, we lost how to respect ourselves. And now is that moment where you're like, I have to get uncomfortable and I have to start practicing that self-love, because if I don't, I'm going to continue to be my worst enemy for a really long time. And I promise you, if you start practicing it, even if, here's the step. Realize when you do it and give yourself a round of applause for being like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how many times I do this in the day. I didn't realize I'm actually talking down to myself. You don't even need to fix anything at that point. But once you start realizing how often you do it and you celebrate just realizing it, you're going to then, logically, next step, start correcting it. Because we're creatures of habit. We want to solve problems. And if not being happy is the problem, we already have the solution. Start treating ourselves and talking to ourselves like we actually like ourselves. So that's step one. Step two, honor yourself and give yourself permission to actually love yourself. Now, I know that can sound ridiculous. Why do I need to give myself permission? Because up to this point, you have a really strange relationship with yourself that you feel you can't be there for you. I know. I've been there. I have to practice this every day not to be there. So the big thing is honor that feeling and give yourself permission. I challenge you to actually sit there and tell yourself, I give myself permission to love me. Say it 3 times. Because the first time it's going to feel uncomfortable. The second time you're going to ask, what the hell am I doing? And the third time you're like, holy shit, I needed this. So let yourself love you. Sounds like a song idea, right? Because by letting yourself love you, once again, it's opening the door to letting other people love you too. Because right now, we're letting any Tom, Dick, and Harry, Tom, Dick, and Sally, whatever the names you want to choose, love us. And we're just like throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping that they're going to stick. That's not how it works. If you want sustainable love, one, you have to learn and give yourself permission to love yourself, because then you're going to know what love feels like. You're going to know what your version of love is. Listen to that again. Your version of love. You're going to rediscover and maybe discover for the first time what your version of love looks like. These romantic comedies, social media, the news, social stigmas, they don't teach you what your version of love is. They try to give you the cliff notes of what they think love is. Most of the people that write these stories or make these posts are just trying to grab your attention because they know they'll get clicks, views, watches, money. Remember, it starts with you. It's at giving yourself permission to love you. So then you know what type of love you're looking for. Because if you can't love yourself, how can we expect somebody else to love us? Like I said, we're creatures of habit. We're humans. We want to solve problems. Let's reverse engineer it. If you're looking for love, the first place it's going to start is how to love yourself. Because then you already have the answer to the equation. You know what love looks like. So now it's just about finding it. It's about putting yourself into the right environments to find those things that bring you joy, make you feel that love. Because, like I said, otherwise you're just throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping something sticks in the bullseye. That may be what she said. And lastly, and what I think is actually the most important part, which makes all of this possible, is meditation. Now, you might ask, why is meditation part of the self-love journey? And believe it or not, I'm going to tell you. Meditation is part of the self-love journey because it forces you to be present. It forces you to be with yourself instead of distracted by a billion other things. So when you wake up first thing in the morning and you meditate and ground yourself, practice mindfulness, what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for the day. Not the year, not what's coming. You're just setting yourself up because whatever's going to get thrown at you, you're going to have that in control. Because we can't control what happens during the day. We can only control how we react to these things. So by meditating and giving yourself however long it is just to be with you and observe your thoughts, you're learning how to spend time with you. The good parts, the ugly parts, the parts that need work, the parts that you celebrate. Because the thing about meditation is there's no judgment during this time. You're just simply observing. Picture this. You're hovering above your body, looking down at the version of you want to become, or the version of you that you already are. Detach all of those strings and just simply observe. Treat it like it's an equation we're looking to solve. If you're looking to make more money, take out all of the things that are bogging you down and just simply look at you and feel what it would feel like to be that version of you. If you're looking for love, what are you doing to experience that love? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you surrounding yourself with? What are you doing? What different content are you taking in? What content are you making? These are the things you're going to start observing when you start this journey of meditation. And now, the caveat of meditation is it takes practice and it takes consistency. If you've never done it, it's going to be difficult at first to sit there and learn how to quiet your mind. You're never going to stop thoughts. What you're going to do is learn how to observe them and not judge them as they come through. I love the analogy of it's like watching traffic pass by. You're sitting on your front porch and you're just watching the cars go by. That's what you're going to learn to do with thoughts. So as things happen during the day, you're still going to experience emotions, but you're going to realize the things that are happening are just passing by. And you're going to be able to process those emotions quicker. You're going to learn why you're feeling those emotions and what they're attached to. And you're going to start to learn what emotions actually are. Now, this will all be for another video on another day, another podcast, another day. But this is the beginning of your self-love journey. So remember, stop that self-negative talk. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Give yourself permission to love you. And lastly, start meditating. Start being present, practicing mindfulness. Find out what meditation practices and techniques work best for you, because sometimes sitting, closing your eyes, and doing nothing isn't the best form of meditation for everybody. You can do walking meditation, lying meditation. You can meditate while you drive. I don't recommend meditating while you're driving if you're first starting out. But hey, remember, this self-love journey takes practice and it takes consistency. Because if you're not there for yourself, we can't expect others to be there for us. So thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for taking this journey of self-love with me. And I hope to catch you on the next one. Remember, like, subscribe, follow, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. You can find somebody like you on all of these platforms. And lastly, have yourself a wonderful day. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.